everything's well in your world today. I'm glad to be back and doing another video. Today, I'm going to talk about what happens when we start to meditate. This is not, and I repeat, this is not a video on how to meditate. There are plenty of places you can go, plenty of schools that you can study with, people who are much more advanced in life than I am to really learn those techniques and become involved in them. But my purpose is to talk to you about what happens behind the scene. And there's not really much written about that. Nobody really talks much about it. I've certainly studied some of the really important schools, so to speak, spiritual schools and techniques, but nobody really ever says, expect this to happen or look at it from this standpoint or expect you're going to have this kind of experience. So I thought it would be helpful in the context of what we're talking about, which is all of these ideas about psychic development and being psychic, to talk about this piece, because meditation is really one of the most important things that you could possibly begin to do in terms of supporting the expansion of your own psychic senses. So think about it this way. The minute that we are born and we take that first screaming breath, unless you are one of those people that hit the earth smiling, we really start to begin to have a separation in our vibration from the earth. Things we eat, the people we're with, the emotions we have, really starts to bring us out of an emotional and vibratory place that is really in harmony with the earth plane. And that's really what we're after. Being in harmony with the earth plane assures us good health and happiness. There's so many things that come with it. And so that's probably a good part of why meditation becomes a part of literally every spiritual and religious tradition. There's something in every one of them. So what I remind myself of is how important this piece is in our work, and I try to share it with people. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about my experience, and maybe that will help. So when I was in my early 30s, so this is like whatever years ago, I was hanging out with some people, and they started talking about the fact that they were into meditation. What I found out ultimately was they knew about meditation, but they weren't actual practitioners of meditation. And it caught my imagination and my interest. And so literally every day at noon, because I'm self-employed, I was able to do that. Every day at noon, I would try to meditate. And so what my first experience was, of course, was a complete meltdown of all the noise and chatter and distraction and everything that would come up to possibly interfere with my meditating, even at a very fundamental primary place. So what I did was, first of all, I decided that I needed to create a habit. So I set up, again, I lived alone. I was capable of doing this. I had a chair. I had a table that I had beside the chair. I had a pillow and blankets. I had spiritual, inspirational kinds of writings that I would read to transition my energy and my thinking from the outside world to then really starting to get to a place where I could begin to meditate. Well, that was a good starting point, but that still didn't work. I still was in that meditation period thinking about what I was going to eat or where I was going or what work I had to get done. So I realized that I was totally incapable of really relaxing, forget meditating, totally unable to relax. So what I did, and I really took some time with this, it probably was the better part of maybe 6 months, I started to use relaxation. Again, think about when this time was, recordings, these voices that, had some kind of music in the background, and the person was saying, we're going to count down from 10 to 1, and every time they said a number, you became more and more relaxed, and there were these suggestions that were being made. So fast forwarding to today, I would say anybody looking to begin to meditate, one of the first things I would recommend you do is some of the incredible relaxation CDs and recordings that are available at this time. Just to even begin to relax is a starting point. Although, there are some people that are really advanced and they came in really capable of reconnecting with that spiritual part of who they are because of their karma from other lifetimes. Maybe they were great in meditation in another lifetime and just coming back in and experiencing it in this lifetime, picking up where they left off. For me, not so easy. My mind was like, blah, blah, blah. What are we eating? Blah, blah, blah. So those were the mental pieces. I actually felt like there were two of me. We are dual in nature, and I really actually felt like one part of me wanted the meditation and the relaxation, but the other part of me was like really sabotaging me. There were all kinds of excuses to not do it, to not meditate. There was a bag of potato chips in the kitchen that just all of a sudden became very fascinating to me. So that's why I really felt that it was just creating the habit. And so what I did was I literally made a date, same time every day, showed up, sat down, and I would not move out of that chair for 1 hour. And that meant even if I was like thinking about the potato chips, but I knew I had to create that habit in my mind. My body would not react unless I did that. So that's really an important step right there to be able to do that. Even like I can tell you, there were times that I got in that chair and I was like, I'm not moving. I want to move, but I'm not moving. So that became really important. The other thing that happens is that this is again my experience and my view, is that when we're meditating, as the longer we meditate, sort of in the beginning, the meditation periods are absorbed with us and our life. And then as we continue to meditate, we start to get a little bit of the spiritual world, still more the material. And then as we continue to meditate, that relationship between how much spiritual and how much really happens on a meditation basis, whether it's material or the spiritual, those percentages begin to change. So now, though, I will tell you after, I'm probably 40 some years into my meditation practice. Notice I say practice because I'm still learning, it's still changing, it's still growing, it's still shifting. I was talking about this morning to someone about how it's changed again. And so again, there is for me this idea that, it should be perfect and I should do it right and should act, but we really have to be kind of flexible in what happens and how it unfolds. I will also say this to you younger people, that this is a very kind of contradictory issue, but I can promise you, if you talk candidly with other people who are maybe in their 30s or even their 40s, there's actually some sexual response in the physical body at the beginning of, quieting ourselves and beginning to meditate. Again, you're working energetically in the body. I'm not going to use this video time to talk to you about how meditation affects the body from a physical standpoint or an energetic standpoint. I may do that someday, but this is about what else, this is like, what do we really have to struggle against? What do we have to work against? So ultimately, to get to the point of meditation, I get cold. So even in the summer months, I have to have a light blanket or a light cover or shawl. That's important to me. There were times of the day that worked really well for me. And that time of the day has changed when meditation was better than at other times of the day. For an example, for years, 4 o'clock in the afternoon was my meditation hour. The reason being that for me, first thing in the morning never worked, because I would get up and try to meditate. And then I would, because I'm self-employed, I would be using that time to, well, what do I have to do today? What do I have to achieve and accomplish? And it just didn't work. So then I moved it to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Funny thing happened. Again, the habit existed. I set it at 4 o'clock. That was my meditation time. And there would be times that I would literally be in the middle of a project and the energy would just disappear. There would be I'd be like, where am I? And I'd look at the clock and it would be 4 o'clock. That habit had become so strong in my subconscious that it shut, literally, it was like almost turning my computer off or whatever I was doing. So that's important to think about. Those are really, and it's so personal and individual. I think the point of this particular video is for you to be objective as you're approaching meditation, understanding how important it is for you to calm the body, to really come into kind of this harmonious place, especially if you're looking to develop more clearly the quantity and qualities of your psychic reception and information. Controlling the body's all key. We talked about exercise, diet, and rest in another video, so I don't need to go through that again. But it's really important to remember that meditation, as far as I'm concerned, is really the key and the basis to this. So now let's take, as you know, I like to try to keep these relatively short. So one of the next pieces I'd like to talk about is what kind of information we receive in that meditation period. I know that there were periods of time to get my mind to stop racing. I did the relaxation. I remember there was a period of time that I asked the universe to give me a mantra for me, that would be the foundation to my getting to a place of having deeper meditation periods for extended times. And I actually did get to a point where I was doing 2 and 3 hour meditations that felt like 5 minutes. So again, at this juncture of my life, that's not the case. I get up in the morning, I do about maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes of study, followed by an hour of meditation. And then sometimes in the afternoon, not regularly, but periodically, I do get the time to do another hour in the afternoon, and I look forward to those days. And again, it becomes a little bit of a discipline, and also, it really becomes that, creating that habit. Again, I continue to have control of my day. I have no demands on it other than the ones that I place on it. So I can create that schedule, in any way that is appropriate for me and, that I like and works for me. If you hung around me and my psychic friends, one of the things that would be of great debate is the information that we receive in our meditation periods. Over the years, I cannot even begin to talk about the kind of information that I've received, the kind of direction that I've received, the voices that I've heard, that not that I'm, mentally ill kind of voices that some people who experience some kind of mental illness experience, but literally that I've received very specific guidance and direction about events in my life that needed to be resolved, events coming in my life. And so there, again, when you find yourself around a lot of kind of psychic people, one of the things that is talked about is this idea of setting an intention to be receiving information. I kind of think that that's a separate piece other than meditation, but I encourage people to let it unfold the way it needs to for them. But I always believe that if you have a question or I have a question, I've got to ask the question, right? And I've got to expect the answer. Sometimes those answers come more quickly than others. I've certainly find myself with my mind wandering in a meditation period, realizing I'm asking a question and getting an answer. But, again, one of the things that I haven't talked about was that when I was first starting to develop and quantify and qualify my psychic information, I really disciplined myself to confront myself as to whether or not I really received information psychically or did I think it. So I would backtrack through my thoughts. Like if I was like, go to the store, I would be like, okay, what was I thinking before that then I got that impression about that. I know that's kind of vague, but that actually was the beginning way of also me learning to quantify and qualify my psychic energy. And look, it's never done. There are always new experiences that need to be worked with, interpreted, understood, those kinds of things. I remember sitting in front of a restaurant one day, and I saw the restaurant burst into flames. And I remember knowing the people who owned the restaurant and, saying something about, this place is really fireproof, right? And they were like, oh, yeah. Well, what happened was there was literally a fire in the staff and everybody left. And so, fire is a transformational element. So, again, there are all of these kind of issues that need to be worked with about what we're receiving and what to do with that information. I have 3 tips that I always give when I teach The first one is when we receive psychic information. It never, under any circumstance, tells us to do or do any harm or hurt another person. The second step is psychic information never tells us to do anything harmful to ourselves. And the third piece is the one to catch. And that is that at any time we receive psychic information and it really hits our ego, like if you do this, you're going to be really great. Or if you do this, everybody will like you. That's ego. That's your ego coming forward. It's not psychic information. It's coming out of your mind and your head. So I think I'm going to stop there. Certainly down the road, I think I'll probably do another video on spirit guides. These things are just coming so quickly for me right now, as you'll notice how regularly I'm producing videos. But like I said, I'm really having a lot of fun doing them and enjoying them, and I'm hoping they're valuable to you. I would like to again encourage you to please subscribe, so that there's I don't know if you know this, but here's the bottom line. YouTube makes money from all of the advertising you see at the beginning of the video. So, the more you subscribe, the difference there is in that whole element and factor. So again, I want to keep these short. So I hope that you are having a wonderful day wherever you are today. And I'm really glad that you tuned into this video. And as always, thanks for listening. And I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.